Welcome to the Feeding Our Young podcast. Have you ever heard the phrase, nurses eat their young? Feeding Our Young is more than a podcast, it's a movement. It's a desire to see new nurses of all ages be supported and uplifted by their peers. And it starts with me, and it starts with you. So join host Eric Miller, registered nurse of nearly 20 years, an adjunct clinical instructor, and today's honors guest, me, Kate Joy, and be ready to have your life uplifted so you can, in turn, uplift others. Welcome to the Feeding Our Young podcast.
Howdy you, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Feeding Our Young podcast. So, as I often do, I went on a run this morning before recording with today's honored guest. The season is coming rapidly to an end. And why would I want to talk about that right now? I don't know, other than the fact that our honored guest today that's with us also enjoys running. I don't know that I would say she's quite as Looney Tunes about it as I am, as I sat down with an honored guest 2 days ago, ran a half prior to that, and today ran a half this morning, and I've got 4 more to do. I'm crossing 4 more off, and then I've reached everything that I could ever possibly have dreamed this year and more. But who cares about that? This is not what this is about. In fact, what today's episode is about is so many amazing things, and I am so excited to introduce today. Okay, so I did run today, everybody. So just understand I'm learning English right along with many others. I'll get it out eventually. Today's honored guest, without further ado, before I screw this up anymore, is the illustrious Kate Joy. Kate, how the heck are you today?
Hey, Eric. I'm very excited to be here. Nervous-sighted.
Nervous-sighted?
Yeah, I stole that from My Little Pony.
Oh, I love that. And my son is going to love that too. He's a brony, but that's another story for another time. He's probably going to be thrilled that I actually included that here. That's going to be fantastic. So before I continue on, Kate, did you run this morning?
I did.
How far did you run?
3 miles.
3 miles! And
Yeah.
you run on the daily, is that correct?
Yes, I just do. If I can do a mile, I do a mile, but it gets me moving and keeps me in my little routine.
Oh, I love it. And the legs, the knees, no issues. How long have you been running?
Oh, gosh, probably since college. It's what's kind of kept me sane. So
a good
over
5
20
years? Because you're pretty young. Yeah, 5 years because you're pretty young?
20
No,
years.
20 years. She went to college 20 years ago, everybody. I'll let you do the math on that one. But no, that being said, I tell people this is a conversation between Kate and I, and you guys just get to listen to it on the happenstance. So I'm asking questions that I want to know just as my own personal inquiring minds. So I also, rumor had it that semi-recently you went somewhere. We're going to talk about that in a second. But before we do, go ahead and introduce yourself to the people, particularly what degrees do you hold? When did you graduate with them? And where are you from?
Okay. Hi, I'm Kate Joy. That's my full real name. And I get asked that a lot. Yep, that's my name.
She's in the witness protection program.
Even good. Yeah. So I'm from the Northwoods of Wisconsin. I like to say the middle of nowhere, but pretty close to the Upper Peninsula.
Okay.
And I went to college in Wisconsin. So 4-year college near Milwaukee called Columbia College of Nursing. And that was 2003 that I graduated.
Woo!
Yep, I've hit that 20-year mark. Yep.
Wow.
I know. And then I did get my master's mostly online with an on-site mentor, and that was through Aspen University in Colorado. So I have my master's in nursing.
Very cool. And if you don't mind my asking, how long ago did you pick that little puppy up?
2000, let's see, I graduated in 2015, 16, somewhere in there.
Awesome. Very, very cool. Well, congratulations on getting your master's. as everybody who listens here knows, we do not necessarily, we advocate for those that want to get their master's to get their master's, but you don't need your master's to be an amazing nurse. However, you do need your master's to do what you do. What is it that you do?
I'm a nurse educator at SCC, Spokane Community College, and I'm full-time faculty there. That's my main gig now.
I love it, and I'm a little biased because go big feet, because I'm a big foot myself, as clearly established on this podcast. Graduated with my 2-year degree there. There's a couple staff members still there from my time there, which is just amazing to me. But you hold a position that hopefully someday I get to join you in. And that's just a little plug for anyone at SCC who's listening to this. I'm just kidding. No. This is not self-promotion time. I'm excited to talk with Kate time, and Kate is an amazing instructor at SCC. I cannot wait for you to gather her energy through this episode, or episodes plural, as we'll see where we end up going with this, as we always find out. Kate, how do I know you? Where did I meet you?
So I met you when you floated from Peds Onc into the PICU. I also still dabble in pediatric intensive care. And so I was full-time nights then when you were floating over there helping with some patients. And it really, I remember you and hearing your story and chatting with you, but you really stick out with one particular patient that has impacted me, which I won't go into specifics, but I know you know. And after I took care of her in PICU, she was in Peds Onc for a while, a really special case. And I just loved your heart, and that really stood out to me. So yeah. Oh. I'll never forget her.
I'll never forget her either. And I don't think anyone who knows her will ever forget her. And so, sorry, everybody. That's the one point you don't get details on. We are pretty, protective of our patients and HIPAA and all the things. But that's where I remember meeting you. I remember loving your heart. And you were one of those nurses that many of the PICU brethren and sistren that, I'd talk with. And that kind of that mutual, I don't know how you do what you do. I don't know how you do what you do. And, we're kind of like those goofy gophers on Looney Tunes. For anybody that doesn't know that reference, look it up and find a cartoon that has the goofy gophers in them, because they're amazing. But they're usually very polite. After you. No, after you. So oftentimes, we often would say, I don't know how you do what you do. Well, I don't know how you do what you do. And that's really one of the cruxes of this whole podcast, right? You find your niche, you just dive right in, however long that takes. You find your niche, you dive right in, and then grow your ability within that niche. Now, Kate, do you still practice bedside, or are you 100% in the education realm now?
I'm really fortunate that our union has a place for nurse educators where I can be supplemental, which is 16 hours a month. So I nabbed that right away when I left, because I still love PICU, and I didn't really leave because I didn't love it. But this opportunity was better for my family. I didn't know I was going to become a nurse educator. It just kind of was like, try this. Okay. So I was like, I better keep my foot in the door just in case. So I'm really grateful because I'm able to bring a lot of the bedside changes. I still go to the PICU skills stuff and make sure that my skills are up to date. So I'm giving the students the most up-to-date information of evidence-based practice. Throwing out those big words, but it's true. I really love that I still have a flavor for bedside and what they have to go through too.
Yeah.
So.
And you are like one that doesn't. You're literally living the dream that I have. I mean, how are we all never satisfied, right? Like, people are like, well, why aren't you, like, you do so much already. Can't you just be, no, there's always something new, something different, something
I feel that
you're reaching out for, right? I also, normally I would have muted that, but I'm going to warn you, listening audience, you're going to listen to the very special Over Age 40 episode of Feeding Our Young, as Kate and I both talked about the fact that we've got, for different reasons, we have to clear our throats. I just had a delightful 6-inch spicy Italian Subway sandwich. And so I have what I call the old man throat clearing. Kate, what's your story?
Oh, I just had a chest cold, and it lasts forever. I hardly ever get sick, so when I get sick, it's very, it's kind of mild, but it's there. So I'm like,
so we're gonna work to productive, literally. We're going
cough.
To work to outdo each other on our throat clearing.
I win.
The contest is on starting now. All right, so enough of all the intro stuff, except for the one other thing I wanted to touch on, which is that not only do you practice bedside, not only are you an amazing nurse educator, but you've recently come back from somewhere where you were able to practice. And where was that? And tell us a little bit more about that.
Oh my gosh, I remember. Okay. Oh, all right. So that's actually really the proper intro because that's how I felt telling people what I was doing because there's so many stigmas behind it. But
Yeah.
I had the opportunity to go to Burning Man. And if you don't know what that is, Google it, but read the website because there's a lot of great information there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stigmas with Burning Man that I had, just kind of grown up thinking about or living in California from what I knew was very minimal. And I was blown away. I was able to go be a nurse volunteer there, which was an incredible experience. I highly recommend it. It was amazing.
So,
And I would like to say what Burning Man, should I say what Burning Man is? I'll just tell you. So
yeah.
Burning Man is a collaboration effort of people, artists that come together and they build a society. It's a really old, well, I guess 80s isn't that old. Oh, I'm really dating myself.
Yeah, watch your mouth, young lady.
It started a while ago, and it's grown. So it's about 70,000 people come together in the desert of Nevada, build an entire city. And it's a giving culture, and it's got principles on there. One is like radical self-reliance, being a participant in this experience, being able to receive if there's gifts. So there's no monetary exchange there. And it's a lot of artists, a lot of music built up of all these little tiny towns that all are giving something different, whether it be poutine at midnight or, their gift of massaging because they're a massage therapist or whatever. I was able to serve from the medical standpoint, which was super fun. I loved volunteering for that.
Amazing. And open the door to that for us a little bit more, share what you can and what you wish to share. What does that look like, volunteering at Burning Man?
Okay, so I was part of a camp it was about 60 people this year. There's, like I said, thousands of camps. And what I liked about this camp is it was mostly EMTs, firefighters, doctors, nurses, therapists, mental health experts. And we are required to pick up a number of shifts. So we'd go to one of the 3 medical tents. And basically, no matter what our expertise was, I collaborated with so many different people from all over the United States. We're all on the same level because we're not on Nevada's license. So we're first aid caring for people, but we could rely on each other's expertise, which was really fun. And so I'm serving next to, a pediatrician and an ER doc and, an ophthalmologist, and we're all coming together to take care of anyone that comes through that needs some help. So
wow.
Back to the basics of nursing. I loved it.
Yeah. And do you see a lot of is it mostly like just injuries or, what do you see doing that?
A lot. So there is actually a hospital that's built there as well called Rampart. So if there's anything serious, we can move them into the hospital who can get them to Reno if needed. And they can do more things like x-rays, blood tests, all that. We're doing first aid, kind of the triage bit of it.
Yeah.
It's a lot of bike injuries. I got sand in my eye. I'm super dehydrated. My foot hurts. I got a blister, basics. It's kind of really in the moment deciding what kind of thing you need to do. And I don't get to do that as much anymore. I'm kind of given a full report on a patient, their full history, all the labs and x-rays I could ever want. So it kind of brought me back to my school nursing days. And I just enjoyed meeting people, talking with them, hearing their stories. It was incredible.
That is amazing.
Yeah, I could do a whole podcast on that place. Let me tell you what.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I was like, just tell us more. Give us details, because it's not often you meet someone who gets to volunteer at Burning Man. So just a nice inside story, a little inside scoop for those that wanted to know. So for those that can't tell, the voice just keeps. There we go. All right, here we go. There we go. Let's keep going. This is all just the intro. So we're officially speaking anyway. So before we jump out of this topic, I have 2 remaining questions for you. First of all,
Okay.
as I ask everybody, both these questions now, what are the 3 words you chose to describe nursing school?
Well, I gave this some thought. There's a lot that could be said. Artistic, inspiring, and builds resilience. And I
Ooh, I
made those
love
words
it.
specifically to nursing school. Not nursing necessarily.
I love it. We're gonna find out why, and I
Okay.
also I can't wait to find out the perspective both as a previous nursing student and as a nursing instructor. I have a hunch you've got a little bit to share on both of those. So, the other fun question: do you have 3 favorite songs in life right now? If so, what are they? If not, why not?
Um, that is an evil question because I do love music. I have a lot of favorite songs, but pretty new in my life. I would say the last maybe year and a half, I started listening to audiobooks. I would put on audiobooks and completely space out immediately. So it's become kind of a training of my brain, and now it's kind of an insatiable thing. I love listening to books. I had to have like the really high techno music to work out hard, and now I kind of don't care about my pace. I just like
Yeah,
listening to the book and kind of getting lost in that author's thoughts. So I'm going to give you books instead.
let's
Let's
go.
see.
The special 3 audiobook episode
Oh,
edition of the Kate Joy episode.
and I haven't given this really any thought. I'm literally going off my Libby app of what I recently listened to. So this
Okay.
is just kind of off the top of my head. My easy to say is Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer. This book is about plants, and that may sound boring to you, but it's very exciting to me. And I loved her botanist perspective as well as her Native American perspective on stuff. So that was cool.
Mm.
Um, I just finished Fast Like a Girl, which has a lot of really good pathophysiology on the women's cycle, which I think all of our girls need to know more about, a lot
Hmm.
more.
Hmm.
And that was about fasting and how to kind of coincide that with your cycle where you're at and different ages.
Mm.
Um, and then I've been listening to a lot of mysteries, so I could just scroll through and I think, I don't know. This one, this isn't exactly a mystery, but it's called Stay Sexy and Don't Get Murdered. That's a fun book you could finish in a day. So I
Oh
kind of
my
intermingle
gosh.
it. Yeah. Yeah.
Right there, just the title alone, I'm like, okay, no, I gotta check that out. Stay sexy
Well,
and don't get murdered. It's good advice, really.
yeah. It is. It's got
But
some really good stuff in there.
that implies though that someone is sexy to begin with, so we gotta,
That's true.
it's applicable to some out there. We'll just leave that where that's at.
It's
Um,
it's it's actually just 2 comedians talking, and it's pretty entertaining and
oh,
thought provoking. So
awesome.
recommended.
I like both of those things, so that's great. Wonderful. Well, then let's just continue to get to know a
Okay.
little bit more about you then. What would you like to share about your family, Kate?
Oh, let's see. Well, most of my family still lives in Wisconsin, so I visit them when I
Okay.
can. I absolutely love going back to Wisconsin, but I love Washington more. So this is where I am. So my family's very small here. My son is 18. He's at WSU, freshman there. And my daughter is 16. She is just started Running Start in her junior year of high school. If you don't know what Running Start is, it's a program in Washington where you can go to the community college or our local college called Eastern, and by the end of your high school career, have both a high school diploma and an AA. So pretty cool
On the state's dime.
on the
That's
state's
yeah,
dime. So she's
exactly.
giving that a go, and it's going very well. So she
Awesome.
gets to come to
Very cool.
school with me. It's great.
So for those that were wondering, yes, Kate did start having kids when she was about 12 or 13. So that's yeah,
23.
do the math.
I
There
was
you go.
actually overseas. That was a whirlwind.
Well, that I'm so glad you mentioned that because you're leading right into the next direction. So I was like, well, okay, you travel from Wisconsin to here when you can and back and forth.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
And Spokane is your home currently. So then where else have you traveled? How often do you get to travel back home? What does that look like? Any particular favorite places you've traveled?
Oh boy. So I was a Wisconsin girl up through college, of course, and then I met someone in college, and someone being my children's dad.
Hmm.
And he was a academic and was already excited about traveling. So during college, well, this is kind of a little bit of a tangent, I guess, but
Let's
I was
go.
supposed to I was supposed to go to Africa for a month and did like a one of my electives was on African culture. And 9/11 happened a month before we left. So I had
Oh.
saved all this money, was ready to go. That trip was obviously canceled. So we were like, what are we going to do? And he's like, well, I'm scuba certified. Do you want to get scuba certified and go to the Caribbean? I'm like, yep. So we did. And then, so I don't know how we afforded it as college students. I really don't. But we ended up scuba diving several times, diving our brains out as young people,
Hmm.
pre-kids, of course.
Yes.
So that was where traveling really started for me. Well, I guess you're gonna have to bring back when I was 14. I went to Ecuador because that's kind of my medical start. But
Mm.
I'll come back to that. So yeah, and then when we graduated, we went to London, where we served as missionaries there for three
Oh,
years.
wow.
He went to be get his master's degree from School of Oriental and African Studies, and we were there 3 years. That's where I had my kids.
Wow.
Yeah. And so we traveled all over Europe over there too. So I have definitely done my traveling in my 20s, just in a roundabout way.
That's amazing, and I'm slightly envious. I know I've said it before with other guests who have traveled. That's outstanding. But what's this little Ecuador thing that kind of happened
Oh,
in between?
yeah. Oh gosh, there's so much to unpack. So
Do
Ecuador
it.
was
Do it.
probably Ecuador must have been my first real trip outside of the United States. That was a missions trip as well to Quito, Ecuador, and Shell, Ecuador. And we built a playground for an orphanage, which was amazing. And we got to visit a couple of hospitals, one in the jungle, one in Quito. That was probably like, I think that's my first time ever in a hospital setting, other than when my grandma died. When my grandma died, she died of pneumonia, and I
Hmm.
literally fainted on top of her. As she, yeah,
Oh
yeah,
my.
sure did. I was 10 years old, peed my pants, everything, the whole thing. That was my first time in an ICU, first time medical stuff. So look how far I've come, folks.
Oh. Oh my gosh. Yeah,
So, oh yeah,
fairly safe to say you don't faint and pee your pants anymore in high stress
no,
situations.
no,
Good.
nope. But I am
Good, good, good.
very well aware that nursing students do. So
Yeah.
I'm guarding them. So Ecuador kind of put me in like a, hey, these hospitals are really interesting. Maybe I want to do something medical someday. And then that thought was fleeting. That was 15 years old. I didn't really
Hmm.
give it a thought again for a while.
So then not
Mm.
giving it a thought again for a while, where does nursing come into play for you? How does that crystallize for you as something you want to do?
I don't know. I've given this thought. I went to school. I loved English and composition in high school. So I actually got accepted to school for communications and public relations. I wonder what my
Hmm.
life would be like if that's what I had stuck with. I really think about that sometimes. So nursing is hard.
Yeah.
So my counselor freshman year was like, you should take nursing 101, just give it a whirl. I'm like, okay, that sounds cool. And I changed my major very quickly to be a nurse, and here I am. I don't know anyone
Wow.
in my past that I can think of. I'm probably insulting somebody that inspired me as a nurse
Yeah.
or
Yeah. Yeah.
anything really other than I don't know. It was a really I'm lucky, honestly.
Yeah.
It was a smart
Yeah.
decision. But that counselor, he's the one that was like, just take nursing 101. We're going to need nurses. It'll be a great job market. Just try it. That it.
Interesting. And
Hmm.
based on what you're saying, I think I know the answer to the following question. But first of all, like that just I'm still stuck in the whole Deadpool and Wolverine. Like I was so looking forward to that movie this summer, all the things.
Hmm.
And I'm
Hmm.
still stuck in that, MCU multiverse thing. So I still have these fleeting
Ooh,
thoughts at time to time, like some Eric Miller out there that's doing this instead of that. So there's
yeah.
some Kate Joy out there, some version of you that is in
Yep.
communications and public relations and
I'm
who
leading a
knows what you do.
podcast, probably.
Probably, and I'm probably a guest on your podcast for
Oh,
something
wow.
stupid I
Let's
did.
do
I don't
it.
know.
Oh, hey,
I,
that'd be fun.
episode number 2 is that we're just
Yeah.
gonna just flip the script? Oh,
Yeah.
this is gonna be fun. Okay, I like this idea. Okay, all right.
I do too.
So okay, then this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna. Okay, let's ask the questions we need to ask a Kate, and then we're gonna flip the script here and now. We're
Okay.
gonna do a second episode where Kate is the host and I'm just going to be some schmo that tries to answer her questions.
That'll be
Okay.
fun.
With that, then,
Yeah.
no, but so the question I was going to ask was then, of course, I'm assuming there isn't any part of you, I mean, maybe a small part, I don't know. Do you ever look back on that time and go, gosh, do you look at it long? I don't know how to phrase it without doing a disservice to what you are and who you are now. Other than, do you ever look at it with like a past longing, like, man, I kind of wish I would have gone down this maybe less difficult road, that sort of thing?
I've had those moments, yes. Uh,
Usually in the hard shifts.
I
Yeah.
think, man, people's lives are in my hands. How did I get into this role? This is so hard. Like, and people's lives are in my hands through my students too, because
Yeah.
it's my job to teach them to be safe out there. The older I get, I think, the more I realize what I got into. But I'm grateful I did. I made the right choice. It's definitely been stable for my family, and that's, in this economy, a blessing in itself. So I do believe I made the right choice. But sure, of course, there's times where I'm like, man, nursing's so hard.
Yeah.
What if I was doing something else where I could just kind of not be worried all the time that I'm going to do something that hurts someone?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And I think there's a bunch of people out there that just went, oh yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
we've all been
Hmm.
there, right? Like it's not and I don't think it's any sort of insult to the field of nursing. We've talked about how much, and it's obvious your passion for it, which is why you teach it. But
Hmm.
all that being said, you can be passionate about something and still go, why did I choose what I chose?
You will have those days, not if it, you
Yes.
will, but more rewarding days keep you going off
Yeah.
those hard days. So, yeah.
Well, then let's just segue into you talk about, not wanting to make those mistakes that might hurt somebody,
Hmm.
et cetera, the challenges you faced, all that business. Would you like to share about, because especially, I mean, being in the peds ICU and having had that long storied career there, is there anything you want to share about any challenges you've had in life, whether we would talk about grief or trauma or anything like that or not? Anything you want to
Hmm.
share as far as that goes?
I could take that question so many places.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see.
You take it. You take it where you want to take it. How does that
Well,
sound?
the first part of the question, yeah, I'm really well. So for career wise, I'm really fortunate that straight out of nursing school, I worked for Children's Hospital of Wisconsin and got trained up there.
Hmm.
Um, and so I worked in the first pediatric job I had was like post trauma, post brain injury as a brand new nurse. Well, how old was I? 21 years old. And I've been able to work in various PICU settings with a couple of just, curveballs in my nursing career and watched people go through tremendous grief. I've heard howls that nobody wants to hear from grieving moms, and I've seen probably more deaths than the average person.
Yeah.
And I thought, man, I don't ever want to become somebody that is desensitized to pain. And
Hmm.
that I think being around it so much, I see that. I see people, just kind of, this is what we do. And then they take it home later and grieve. And you have to put on this strong face. So I went through some grief 2019. Like, I think we've all gone grief and we talk about trauma in different ways. So it's
Yeah.
different for every person. But
Yeah.
2019, just a few months before the COVID shutdown of the state, um, we lost their kid's dad, and I became a single mom.
Mm.
And that was that could be, yeah, that kind of grief that I had to go through.
Yeah.
And the long process was so amazing so that I can understand a little bit more about what others are going through and that they may be in a totally different state of mind than they ever intended to be. They might not be their best selves. Grief
Yeah.
is not linear, it's up and down and all over the place. I think in nursing school, we learn that, you have your denial and you have your anger and you have your depression and you have your bargaining and all those things that can happen all simultaneously and throughout years.
Yeah.
And so learning how to overcome grief, um, and I do say overcome because although there's memories and there's wishes or frustrations, I've learned how to still find the joy in everyday life and be um, my whole self outside of that situation, and that situation won't define me. So how to kind of very quickly judge where people are at in their pain and determine, how much can they take on right now in nursing school? Where are they? How are they going to get through it? Are they in the right place and mindset to be here for their patients? Or, I had to I had to take a step back from nursing for a couple months so I could get my head
Yeah.
on straight. I
Yeah.
was not ready to care for other people. I could barely think straight.
Yeah.
And just kind of giving a little grace to our students that are going through some hard things.
Yeah. Wait, you mean students actually go through hard things? That's crazy.
Yeah, and then sometimes they need to step out and they're not ready for nursing school, and sometimes they have to get through nursing school to keep surviving for their family. So, kind of
Yeah.
judging where they're at and what support we can give them. I'm very sensitive to people's needs and extra sensitive to single moms since I, empathize with that the most.
For
Because
sure.
that's the best part about SCC. We've got all sorts of people taking our courses,
All walks of life.
all walks of life. So,
It's interesting. Let me ask you this then. Just something you said sparked that in my brain that other guests have talked about. But what would you say to those that have come on this show and or listen to the show and say that they've experienced a state of nursing education where they're going through stuff and they've been told by nursing school administration, instructor, fill in the blank, I don't know who, that then say, well, if we have to make this exception for you, or if we have to do this for you, we have to do it for everybody, and use that as a rationale to not, I don't want to say change the rules, but to not accept the other things that are going on in the background as much as maybe they should. What would you say to that?
I could give you several examples of how, and I only know my program and what we've done, but
Yeah.
we've had some students go through some really, really hard things and allowed them, to step out and step back in. We've had situations where students are, putting on a tough face and they're going to get through this and they don't, want to talk about all their stuff that they're going through. They're here for school and they're separating life. And then they come
Yeah.
back and say, this is what I'm going through right now. And we have a student progression committee that looks at that and says, this was a real hardship. Like, yeah, you were really going through something really, really hard.
Yeah.
It takes some of the, inhumanity out of it. So I will say a lot of it is case by case, as much policy as there is. There's a lot of humanity too. We are all nurses to, the heart, but we have to have people that are in the mindset to just step into the field and take all this information on too. So it's a balance. It's a balance. For sure.
So would your advice be to, students, potential students listening, saying, hey, if you are going through something, you know what I mean? Would you recommend that they be open with someone they trust in that staff role, that they can, hey, I'm really going through this. Is that kind of your advice to them, or is there another spin on that?
I do think it helps because we have resources that we can help plug people into, or, getting them into counseling or making sure that they have support. Not everybody has a great support system in the community college setting. So, and just allowing those around you to support you and help you and not trying to do it alone. Yeah, I do recommend that for sure.
Awesome. Take that to heart, listener. Take
Mm-hmm.
that to heart.
Mm-hmm.
So then let's just go right into it then. I mean, what is some of the hardest parts about being a nurse educator? Let's put on your nurse educator hat and ask some nurse educator questions
now. Okay. Well, I was thinking about roller coasters the other day and how I hate them now, and I used to love them.
Me too.
And yeah, and I'm like, I swear 40 hit, and I'm becoming the old person that's like more scared of things. I don't live my life in fear by any means.
Yeah.
I'm still an appropriate risk taker, but that naivety of living life is kind of dissipating. And I think about some of our elderly, really scared of everything, and they fixate on that stuff. I think it's because they've seen so much and they've gone through so much and realize how fragile life can be. I'm not a worrier necessarily, even though I've seen, even with my own kids, my daughter's off driving, my son's off to college.
Yeah.
I'm not micromanaging them, even though I've worked with kids their age that have died, right? So I'm not living in a life of fear, but I do recognize how much more responsibility we have as humans and how much more could happen, right? And so I take that into the nursing stuff too. I didn't realize roller coasters were kind of dangerous and scary, or maybe they're not. Maybe they're really safe and I'm just becoming nervous Nelly. I don't know. But now, as a nurse of over 20 years, I'm getting more intent, or I should say intentional and intense, two words there, of making sure our students are safe and realizing all that can go wrong, because I knew what I was like as a 21-year-old nurse and I just didn't know what I didn't know. I wasn't as afraid. I wasn't as probably aware of all the things that could happen. And so looking at through it that lens, I know they don't know what they don't know. And I give grace for that, but also I need them to be very particular and intentional with what they're doing out there so that they can build good safety habits, because they just
Yeah.
don't know. And so that's fun, and the scariest part probably of being an instructor is putting people out in our community that's going to take care of me and my
Hmm.
family. And
Hmm.
are they safe to do that? Um,
Yeah.
so that is fun though, because now I've got some great nurses out there that are doing an amazing job, and I think I had a part in that. So
You absolutely have, for sure. What would you say to the idea that not everyone is meant to be a nurse?
I gave thought this morning to that, because it's such a calling, in some ways, but I say this lightly, but you don't even really have to like people to be a nurse if you want to choose to
Hmm.
do something that is more research oriented and you're an introvert, or you go an IT route because you're really good with technology. Med surge is not the end of the road, right? There's
Yeah.
community nursing, there's psych nursing. You'll find a niche that works with your personality. So it is a calling, but you got to figure out which calling it is. You might
Mm.
not be called to be an ICU nurse, and that's okay. It's not for
Yeah.
everybody. Um, but can everybody be a nurse? Absolutely not. It is so hard. But can you
Hmm.
find a place that works for you? I think so.
Oh no, but anyone can be a nurse. You're especially if you're doing it for the money, right?
Well, and we get that too, right? We get it's for a paycheck. And
Hmm.
and it, there's still a level of empathy that you have to get through nursing school, because it is so med surge heavy. You are dealing with patients directly, touching humans, that maybe
Hmm.
you're not used to even being that intimate setting with another human that you've never met before. You're not a touchy-feely person. You don't know how to talk to someone and just like get them comfortable with a stranger that's going to care for them all day. Some of that stuff you can't necessarily teach. You just are that way or you aren't.
Yeah.
So, in that
And
respect, not everybody can make it.
no, and I'll never ever forget. And I think I've name dropped her here before. Again, this is the special over 40 years old episode of Feeding Our Young. So I don't remember if I mentioned her before by name, but I'll name drop here. I'm sure she's out there somewhere. But my very first quarter instructor at SCC in nursing school, Susan Strandberg. She taught the lecture, and she was one of the clinical instructors, and I had her in both capacities. And I'll never forget, like, along with the F word that we've mentioned here, she goes, you guys will be intimately acquainted with the F word. And I tell my students that, and I pass on, she gets the credit for this. And those of us in the classroom at the time were like, and she's like, flexibility.
Oh, absolutely.
Flexibility. You have to, yeah. But the other thing she said, and it has stuck with me, now almost 18 years later, and it's that she goes, any of you that are here right now, seated at your desk, and you're here for a paycheck, I promise you right now, you will never ever, and nurses get paid decently, she
Hmm.
would say, but you never get paid enough to put up with what you will have to put up with. And that's
Hmm.
pre-pandemic. Like, we're talking
Hmm.
years pre-pandemic, right?
Hmm.
And man, that point has been proven true time and time again. Yes, I get paid well enough. I got paid well enough straight out of school to allow my wife to stay home with her kids. That was a huge thing for us. It was enough to put a roof over her head, diapers and food, and that was it. But it was enough. And yet, what she said is true. If you do not have a passion for it, if you do not have a burning desire to take care of other people,
Hmm.
whether or not you know what capacity that's in yet, then if you're doing it for the money, get out now. Otherwise, stay in the programs. This is going to be great. We're going to hear from universities like, so yeah, students heard your podcast and dropped out. Don't drop out. If you want to be a nurse, be a nurse. But if you're doing it for the paycheck, go find something else to do.
Yeah, well, you won't last very long because it really
Mm-mm.
is very high intensity work. It takes your whole mind, body, and soul to be out there and collaborating with all sorts of different people. And every day's different. My students are always so nervous to go in, and they say, "What do I do?" Like, I get in my car and I'm like, "I don't know if I can get in this building today." I'm like, "That's awesome." And they're like, "Wait, what?
Yeah.
No, it doesn't feel awesome." I said, "Yeah, it is, because it means you care. And when you stop caring, you're going to be in trouble." I still have to take a breath. I get to my work early if I'm going to go into PICU, and I take a
Mhm.
minute and I center myself and I leave this other world of life behind,
Mhm.
and I go in, and I'm still a little nervous. And I've been in pediatrics over 20 years, ICU over 15. I take it very seriously, and I think that some anxiety is good, right? And
Yeah.
it's there to help you. It's there to make you still hold on to that passion and really think about what you're doing on the floor and how you are best serving this community. So, in that respect, anxiety is good.
Yeah. And,
I've
and
said
like you
that for
said,
years to them. Yeah.
and like you said, it shows that you still care. Because the
Yep.
moment you stop caring, the moment you go in and this becomes routine, you got to
Hmm.
check
Hmm.
yourself, right?
Right.
Yeah. So then we're I feel like some of this has been kind of not dark and morose, but at the very least, little gray clouds, through here for someone listening going, oh my gosh. So then let's spin this around and let's pull
Sure.
it to what is it that you love most about nursing school and nursing, if you wanted to add that as a
Oh
topic.
my
But since we're
gosh.
talking about nursing educator Kate, what do you love most about nursing school?
I love, love, love putting that passion and energy into my classroom and watching the growth. It's incredible. Nursing students that you're listening out there, if you ever have me, you'll know the days I take my Zip Fizz in the morning because I'm like, yes, let's go. But I kind of intentionally do that because I want to set the tone. I want to make sure that we're there with a good attitude, because nobody wants to crawl out of bed when it's still dark outside and it's cold and we're entering this smelly hospital and we're doing all these hard things, right? So how do we keep a good energy and bring that to the floors? And so I love bringing that to the classroom because I think it's contagious, and I love watching the students have fun in the seriousness of it all and
Hmm.
grow. And I'll say, "Man, remember that first day of clinical? And let's look at it right now. What made you feel like a nurse this quarter?" And they just rattle all these fun things. That's so much fun to watch them just like become more confident and proud of themselves, and from like, deer in the headlights to jumping in and helping as they can. And that carries from first quarter all the way through sixth. We do quarters at SCC, so there's
Yeah.
6 quarters total. Um, and yeah, that is super enjoyable. I also love, 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 can't say that enough, working for a community college, because for me, selfishly, it's really rewarding, because everything that I'm putting into these students, and everything that they're demonstrating back, is going straight into Spokane or the
Yeah.
surrounding area. So I have, I'm in my 5th year of teaching, and I have students that have graduated. They're not students anymore. Nurses taking my students that I have helped train, which is incredible.
Yeah.
Right? And they're out there and they're performing wonderfully, and there's nothing but joy on their faces, and that is so much fun to see them come full circle from
Mm.
scared to
It's
confident.
it's the nursing school circle of life. You've heard it here
Circle
first.
of life. Yeah,
I'd bust out in
that's
song,
it.
but we're gonna spare people that.
Yeah.
That's for sure. And I imagine you have some like specific stories, of what you're allowed to share anyway, of students that you've had in the past. There were some that you included in your wonderful little workup that you sent me, and would you
Oh,
mind,
good.
shedding the light on some of those while you have the mic?
Oh, I think what that was actually kind of getting at was that SCC is all ages. So I'll have students that are graduating straight out of Running Start. So this could be, although she's not going into nursing, my daughter Nora, right? She's going to graduate high school at
Hmm.
18. She'll have all her prereqs done if she was going on nursing track. And coming into SCC nursing program at like 18, 19, they're pushing narcotics and giving benzos before they can drink legally. I know, it blows my mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
All the way to I've had, oh gosh, I mean, just off the top of my head, a construction worker that wanted to completely change their gear. People have had several different BAs and just haven't found their niche yet and want to try nursing. I had a teacher, she was 50 something, teaching that whole time, and she decided to do nursing at the end of her career. And nurses are teachers, FYI.
Mm-hmm.
That's not just me, that's you too. You get to be a teacher. If you didn't know you're going to school for 2 degrees, you are.
Congratulations.
So it's a really eclectic group of people. It's pretty fun to see all these different walks of life coming together and using their past knowledge. I've had the best baristas, former baristas that are incredible nurses because they're personable, they can take on a lot of stress, they can move, they can organize. Um, it's really fun. It's really fun to see the different walks of life come into nursing. And there was another student that had participated in gang warfare that had come through all of that and is now a nurse giving back to the community. So it's it's just very eclectic.
And I think that's what makes nursing such a beautiful, beautiful field. And not that it, again, comparing to other fields that you and I maybe don't have experience in, but regardless, what makes nursing so beautiful is that mosaic of various people that make it up, the various backgrounds, the various ages, the various genders, the various, fill in the blank, the various whatevers. And coming back to say, you know what, I remember one of my best friend peers in SEC. He had come in his, I think, early 50s as an accountant in a former life. And he's like, I just got tired of paper and numbers and I wanted to help people. That too. Yeah. And those stories, and that's not against anyone out there listening who, obviously I teach students that are coming to university strictly straight out of high school and have to declare their major and all the things. This is not putting down anyone who's young and coming straight through. Like Kate was saying, it's all types, all peoples, and that's what just makes it so freaking beautiful. Anything else you want to add, Kate?
Sure. One of the questions I ask most of my classes is, there's lots of icebreakers I could do, and there's always the question of why do you want to be a nurse? But what brings you joy? Not because it's my last name. But,
yeah, maybe there's a little something in there.
I've learned throughout the years that no matter how hard nursing gets, you've got to keep doing those things. And so the first day they'll be like, oh, I love to snowboard. Or whatever quarter it is. I love to do this. I love to do that. And so at the end of the quarter, ask, how many times did you do that thing you mentioned this quarter? Oh, I didn't have time. I'm like, you have to make time. It's not that you didn't have time. It's that you didn't make time. And they'll be like, well, I have to study, I have to get A's. I'm like, but you're not going to succeed at these things if you're not doing things that fill you up in other ways. So I know nursing school is intensive. But even if it's that 1 mile a day in the morning to get your blood pumping and your mind working, do it or it's walking your dog or whatever it is, you've got to keep doing those things. And I tell my students, for big exams, like, do not be cramming. Go make yourself feel pretty, feel confident, listen to some good music, whatever it is that makes you feel you, go into those situations calm, collected, confident, right? It doesn't mean I'm last minute measuring labs in my head and trying to figure out everything. So I don't know. I could probably go on and on. I love sharing things with them as they organically come up, but just keep doing what you love to do in the midst of it, even especially when you become a nurse.
Yeah. Key. And along with that, like you've already said, as it's been established, be sexy and don't get murdered. So, as long as you don't get murdered, be sexy and do the things you need to do. So those are big takeaways from today. No, with that being said, Kate, you chose 3 words to describe nursing school. Okay. What were they and why did you pick them?
Okay. Well, artistic, because there's been a time in my life where I was like, man, I'm not good at things like crafting or playing an instrument or singing. And I really wish I had an art to give. And I realize I've poured my life into nursing. Um, and so that is an art of caring. So caring is one of our learning outcomes, right? We put it
Hmm.
very objectively, but caring is something that comes deep from within. And so it's very artistic to learn how to care with your own personality. Who are you? How are you going to care? It may not look the same for somebody that's in hospice or in L&D, but how is your personality going to help this patient? So it's an art of
Yeah.
caring. So it's very artistic. It can be
Yes.
very artistic. So that's why I picked that one. Think about that a lot.
Love that.
Nursing school is inspiring. I'm inspired by my students every day. They're all inspired by each other. We're inspired by our patients' resilience. Um, it's inspiring to, I mean, one of my favorite stories is one of my very first students, and this goes back to caring as well and the artisticness of it. She had to do her first care plan and said, well, here's, some patients to work with this nurse, pick a good one to do a care plan on. And she chose a patient that was a convicted pedophile.
Hmm.
Um, he was a heroin addict, was homeless, and was dying of cancer.
Wow.
And I said, this is your first care plan. It's kind of a lot. That's a heavy, heavy patient. Can we pick something a little more simple? And she said, it's okay with you, Professor Joy. They have to call us Professor. If it's okay with you, Professor Joy, I'd really like to do this one because if I can care for this person and find a way to be inspired by them, I can care for anyone. She's
Oh.
also one of my favorite nurses out there.
Oh.
I don't know if I have permission to name drop, so I won't, but she blew my mind that was great. Like very first student,
Yeah.
brand new job. She's still my standard. I just adore her.
That
So
is
I thought that
goosebumps.
was pretty
Goosebumps.
powerful.
Mm.
Yeah, it was really powerful for me to see that. And I was inspired by her. And then the last one builds resilience. I had a student tell me last week, he said, I don't think I'm supposed to be here. I go home and cry every day. Like, it'll get better. Like, I was empathetic, but also like, I have heard this before. Like, it's overwhelming
Yeah.
for good reason you feel that way. This is exhausting. It's so much information. There's so much pressure. It's completely time consuming. So if you're a family member of a nursing student, know that they are working very, very hard. It truly is all encompassing. And that's why it's like, wait, just a mild jog, that's all I have time for? It might be. It might be
Hmm.
all they have to give. And you're supporting them, whether it be a meal or clean house when they come home or, gas for their car so they can get to school, getting the kids ready so that they can focus on their exams. That's all very, very important for their success. So they're building resilience, and by sixth quarter, they have a lot more resilience. It's
Yeah.
amazing to see that growth. And then throughout their nursing career, right?
Yeah.
Resilience doesn't have to be a hard thing. It means you can go through more and handle more. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
those are my words.
the process of that building might be a little painful, but you know what I mean?
Oh,
Like
yeah.
it legitimately just, man, I love the words you chose because that is it in a nutshell. That is the experience that is nursing school and that is becoming a nurse. And I love that you are speaking that directly out to those that are supporting nursing students, whether that's a
Mm-hmm.
spouse, a parent, or a
Mm-hmm.
friend, or a loved one, significant other, a dog or a cat. I don't know if you're listening. Anyway, whatever works as far as that
Mm-hmm.
goes. So before we get to the traditional last question, that was the traditional next to last question. Now the traditional last question, we're going to sandwich something different in between. And that was something you and I kind of touched on early before we started recording. But what is your perspective on the whole feeding our young versus eating our young phenomenon?
Yeah. We definitely still hear that phrase. Feeding our young is why I got into being a nurse educator. I was so excited to, like I've said, bring the fun, bring the energy, let them be so comfortable coming to me. I still have nursing students tell me I'm very intimidating. And I'm like, but I'm trying to be open. What does that mean? They're like, no, it's a different type of intimidating. We just really want to make you proud or, whatever. We really just want
Yeah.
to do a good job and we want to, whatever. And that's a really huge compliment to me. But I don't want them to be the type of intimidated where they're not going to call me for skills because they're scared they're going to feel stupid, or that I'm going to be impatient or jump in and not let them process how to do that skill. And I admit I'm had to grow in that area. It's really hard to not measure the flour and crack the eggs for your toddler making cookies, right?
Mm-hmm.
It takes a great amount of patience. And patience doesn't necessarily mean that I'm like gritting my teeth. It means that I'm learning how to slow down because I'm a fast person.
Yeah.
Okay, where am I? I might have gone a little off. So that was my intentions, and I think that's the type of nurse educator I am, or strive to be.
Yeah.
But I've been thinking about this eating your young because it has all negative connotations. And the reason is, if you don't know what eating your young is, it means that you're giving these new nurses such an attitude or a hard time or judgment, or a feeling of being inferior that it drives them away from the field or that floor or whatever. It makes them feel dumb or bad about themselves. I think those nurses that I have also worked with, my first preceptor was terrifying, also gave me some of the most skill in being safe. So I was been thinking about those people that scared me a little bit. I respected them. So there was intimidation factor there, but it was also like, okay, they're just scared too. They just want you to be safe, and you've got lives in your hands through your instructor, and they get a little nervous, they don't want anyone to get hurt. And I think that's where some of that eating your young is coming from, is just like a fear. Now there is those that are just like too high on their horse and need to come down a notch. But I think in general, it's just a fear thing, like that scared of roller coasters or learning what could happen and realizing that students don't know what they don't know. So I'll give you the advice, students, that I still give, but that I was given the first time I set foot in a PICU. And that was at Children's Hospital with a very intimidating preceptor. And she said, if you ask questions, I'll worry less. Do not pretend to know anything.
Mm-hmm.
Do not feel like, I would rather you ask questions and then I'll trust you more. But the minute you're quiet and pretending, I'll know it and I will not trust you anymore. So the culture of finding a floor that you can ask questions and feel safe, and not feel stupid when you ask those questions, that's the floor you should be on. That's the community that you want. I want you to be like, you know what? I should know how to empty a JP drain, but I have never had to do one in nursing school. How is that possible? I don't know, but will you show me?
There it is.
Let's do it. Don't pretend.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think that we do want to feed our young, but just know that those nurses that have been out there a while are just really have a lot to give. So find a way to get their knowledge out. Yeah. I was thinking about that today, so I hope that came out all right. But
coincidentally, on your run, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
Just another plug out there.
Who inspired me? And it's a lot of the people that scared me inspired me. So, yeah.
All right, well, I mean, we could end on that advice, but if you could only give one last piece of advice for today's nursing student, what would that be?
I want to, there's so many things, but I think just the concept of integrity. How I define integrity is nobody's around. Nobody can see you. Are you doing the safe things? Are you still being true to what your yes is? So following through on your yeses, whether that's scrubbing the hub for the first 15 seconds for the safety of your patient, even if nobody's watching you, or it's following through on that coffee date with your friend, even though you feel like cuddling up with your cat. When you start to follow through on what you've said you're going to do, in any capacity, you build self-esteem within yourself. You build trust within yourself. You like yourself more. That's how you start to build true happiness. And that all comes from that integrity of doing what you say you're going to do, letting your yeses be yeses, and just being true to yourself in that.
So good. Don't ignore that tiny voice inside you. Don't ignore it, even in the dark, in the silence, by yourself. I love that.
It honors yourself, yes.
Oh, I just love it. Thank you so much, Kate. This has been such an amazing time. I can't wait to do this again. Are we going to flip the script? Let's flip the script.
Sure,
We're going to do we'll do a short little episode too, where Kate is going to be the hostess, and I am going to be a schmo answering questions. So we're going to take our break, and we'll be back for the next Kate Joy episode, the Kate Joy led episode of Feeding Our Young. Thanks so much, Kate. I've had a great time.
Thanks, Eric. I feel honored to be here. Appreciate you so much.
Likewise. Here's what's happening on the next episode of Feeding Our Young. Yeah, the only the only time I ever had somebody where it truly was like, you're saying the wrong thing. My wife had visited the church that we had come from, and I won't name drop here because things had since then been worked out and between this person and us. But there was this one person who, looking back, it was their way to comprehend us losing a 16-month-old son. But my wife was visiting the church. I had to work. I don't remember what it was. I didn't go back. And when she was there, this person standing next to her and unsolicited said, well, you know why your son died, right? And, of course, she's like, I'm like going, ooh, wow. I would have been like, ooh, I'm all ears. What is the answer to that question? But she's like, no, like she's stunned that this person is even going that direction. And they said, well, it's because you left the church in bitterness.
Did you like today's episode of Feeding Our Young? Let today's honored guest know by emailing us at thanks@feedingouryoung.org. Also, if you are a nursing student, nurse, or a nursing instructor and would like to be featured on a future episode, please email us a few details about yourself at the very special email address mystory@feedingouryoung.org. If you have a question you would like addressed in a future Q&A episode, please send it to q@feedingouryoung.org. For all other inquiries, please email us at info@feedingouryoung.org or text us at area code 509-ALL-THEM, 509-255-8436. We're so excited to have you return to hear our next honored guest. Be sure to follow us on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Feeding Our Young LLC. Again, that's username Feeding Our Young LLC. Until next time, be encouraged and go find someone to encourage today.